Hi friends, welcome to Krako's video series. I'm ELIGIBILITY. In this particular video, I'll be explaining the SNAP exam, giving you an overview of the exam, how to apply, what are the important dates to remember, and I'll also tell you about the course that we have. We have a course which will essentially go through the entire syllabus, cover the entire syllabus, give proper conceptual videos for all the questions that are asked within SNAP, and also adequate practice with concept tests. So let's get started. Let us first understand the exam and then we'll come to the course. So first let us know the important dates. Always remember that have these dates in your mind so that you have a proper idea of when you have to apply by, when you have to register, when you have to pay by, so that you don't miss the date or leave it for the last day as such. I would suggest, if you plan to give SNAP, I would suggest that please register now and please pay off also now, because what is going to happen is that as you are coming up closer to November 24th, when it is near the last dates, you'll be too focused on CAT that you might actually forget about this particular exam. So I would suggest that please apply now, apply early, so that you do not have to do it at the last minute or when the site is crashing and things like that are happening. So I would say that actually start now, because the enrollment process, that window has already started, so you can actually apply now. Remember the online application process, at that point of time itself you have to register, you have to pay, and you also have to pay for the programs that you are selecting. So there are a lot of good institutes that take SNAP scores. So SNAP test, you have to register some 1950 plus taxes for the test, plus you have to also register for the individual programs. There is SCM, HRD, SIBM obviously, and multiple different institutes which accept SNAP scores, and you have to select those institutes at the time of, there's like an integrated application, both the test and the application to the institutes has to be done at the same time. You have to pay for it at the in one go. So I would suggest doing that now, so that you would not leave it when you are focusing on CAT, or in the midst of giving CAT, you don't forget to actually register for this exam. See the admit card, so basically you can give this exam thrice. It is essentially very good for those who have exam nerves. So if you are somebody who is very seriously targeting SNAP, I would suggest to at least register to give it twice or so that what will happen is that you will get a chance to see the exam twice. If you are somebody who does not do well in their first attempt, it would be good for you to actually have multiple attempts at this. And remember, over here the highest of the attempts is taken. There is no normalization done. It's not that you have to take average of the two scores. The highest of the two, whatever attempts that you have done would be taken. So if you have attempted it thrice, the highest of the three attempts will be taken. They do not do normalization across the three slots, across the three tests as such. They aim to have a test which is of the same level on all 3 days. So they do not do normalization for the score. So whatever is your score, they just take the highest. So if you want to maximize your chances, try to at least give twice, so that you improve your chances of getting a high score. Now the admit card for the first test, that is SNAP test 1, can be downloaded from 5th of December, and for SNAP test 2 and 3 can be downloaded from 10th of December. Now the exam itself will be on on 10th December, second SNAP test is on 18th December, third SNAP test is on 23rd December, and finally the result will come by Jan 10, which is also around the time when your CAT results will come. So from then onwards, your the GDP, not GD, group exercise, PI, what you can start it in the same time as your other GDPI prep will begin. So this would be the rough timeline, so that you can keep it in mind that this is going to be after CAT, but you have to register before CAT. You have to pay and apply for programs just at the time of registration. And remember, you get 3 chances, so you can actually pay for multiple chances, so that you maximize your chances of converting the exam. Your highest score will be picked, and your GDPI, everything will begin or be in tandem with the other MBA GDPI processes. Okay, so now that you understand the rough timeline, let's take a look at the exam format. You have 60 questions in 60 minutes, +1 for every correct answer, -0.25 for every incorrect answer. There are 4 options. So if you think of it, this is a kind of a test where you should attempt more than not attempt, because the expected value, if you take 1 in 4 chance and -1/4 mark, the expected value even for guessing is around 0. So it would make sense to actually have educated guesses. So if you can narrow it down to 2 options or 3 options, I would say that do not leave any question. Attempt as much as possible, because essentially it is minus 1/4 and 4 options. By expected value of probability, you would be roughly even from like attempting, even doing blind attempts as such. So 60 questions, I would say all 60 should be attempted in the 60 minutes. As I said, +1 for correct, minus 0.25 for incorrect answers. There are 3 sections. There are 15 questions from general English, verbal, reasoning, verbal ability. This is generally on the easy side. There is no RC over here. The section is fairly easy, but it requires some understanding of grammar and sentence correction and vocabulary. I'll come to the individual sections later, but generally this is an easy section which you can actually do fairly quickly. So your 60 minutes, you don't need to actually spend like 15 minutes on this. Here you can probably finish the section a bit early. You can try to go through the section in like say 10-12 minutes or so that you save some time on this. The analytical and logical reasoning questions, I'll tell you the exact but this is generally of moderate difficulty level. There are some slightly difficult questions, some questions you might get wrong, some questions which require critical reasoning and a lot of analytical reasoning as such. So this will generally be of moderate difficulty level. Quantitative aptitude, DI and DS, generally is slightly one level lower than CAT. So slightly easier questions, but roughly the same syllabus. So just slight improvement in how difficult it is going to be. And you have 20 questions, you will, it would be enough to actually solve those 20 questions. The time is enough. You can actually try to solve a good 15 or so of them. You would not be hard pressed for time for solving all of those questions. But essentially you should try to save your time here so that you can spend more time over here. Here also you will be saving some time when you're doing like odd one outs or like analogies or something like that. When easier questions come, you can save up some time so that you get to spend more time in the quant section. Remember, there is no sectional time limit, so it's not as if you have to spend time here, this much time here and only this much time here. So the idea basically is that try to save up on your time from the general English and analytical and logical reasoning section so that you get more time to do the quant aptitude section properly. Your accuracy will be high over here and your overall score will also improve if you do well in the quant section, but there are also sectional cutoffs, so you can't ignore any of the particular sections. Again, the sectional cutoffs, what are the cutoffs, individual cutoffs, all of that again depends on your program. So even your program decides what your overall cutoff requirements will be. So remember, you can't ignore any section, but as much as possible, and there are no sectional time limits, so you should try to aim to do as much of these 2 sections so that you have a good attempt, and then save some time there so that you can spend more time in the quant section. Okay, generally out of these 60 questions, a 46 or so kind of a score would be good. It would be like 99%, 99.7 percentile plus. So if you are basically targeting only SIBM, you should try to target a score roughly around 46 to 47 to get there. Then you will be safely in. Even slightly lower scores also you will be on the edge. But if you want to be safely in, if you have around a score of 46 to 47, you will be safely in for SIBM as such. Okay, now let us take a look at the individual sections. So firstly, let's take a look at eligibility. The eligibility over here is the same as eligibility for most exams. There is no age limit, but you need to have completed a bachelor's degree of at least 3 years and you need a 50% in that bachelor's degree. You can attempt the exam in your last year of college, but essentially your admission is subject to the criteria that you actually pass the college, pass your final year, and your overall percentage in that graduation is above 50%. This 50% criteria is for general category. For SC ST, it is relaxed to 45% aggregate in graduation. So remember, if you are even in the final year, you can apply, but you have to pass the final year, and the overall cutoff should clear the 50% cutoff. There is no age limit, so you can, if you are restricted by age in other places, this would not be a problem over here. Now let's take a look at the section. This is 25 questions. This is the section where it is most important as such, because there is again 15 marks from general English, 20 marks from quant, and quant mostly the marks won't be that very different because the questions on a slightly easier side. So even average students will get most of the questions, good students will also get most of the questions. The difference where you can probably make a difference is in this area in analytical and logical reasoning. If you do very well in this particular section, then your overall percentile would be much better. So in your preparation up for SNAP, I would suggest that apart from your general MBA exam prep like CAT prep, etc., if you're focusing also on SNAP, also take a look at these type of questions. These type of questions come a lot in banking exams, but they also come in a lot of OMET exams, and you can see the type of questions that that are there. See, I basically try to split it up into two parts. So this part I consider like verbal reasoning type of questions. Rather than verbal reasoning, these guys call it analytical reasoning, but essentially it is part of your brain that that is associated with comprehension skills. So if you have good comprehension skills, in this also you can do fairly well using the comprehension skills. So there will be critical reasoning, so finding strength in the argument, weaken the argument, statement which what can be concluded from the statement, what is the assumption being made in this particular statement, what would be the right course of action, what would be the cause and effect. So all of these kind of questions, if you are generally good at comprehension and critical reasoning, you do well in that particular type of questions. And I think there are around 5 or 6 questions that come from this particular topic, or slightly more also. So there is a fairly good representation of these questions in the actual exam. Then you have analogies, one-off questions from analogies, odd one out, paragraph conclusion. So essentially these are verbal or comprehension skills related kind of questions. So if you are somebody who does well in those, over here also you will have certain questions that you can bank on to actually get you through in this particular section. Apart from that, you have your normal LR sets that you see in banking exams, such as input, output, coding, decoding, blood relations, directions, scheduling, clocks and calendars. In fact, clocks and calendars, which has not come in CAT for a long time, you can expect roughly 3 to 4 questions from that over here. And remember, in clocks and calendars, if you have done like if you have done the concept for clocks, done the concept for calendars, it becomes very easy to solve. Solve like 20 questions of each, and you will be very confident of solving questions from this particular topic. We have adequate questions in our question bank. Just see the concept videos, see the concept test, practice properly from that. You should not have any real issues in either of these then. And with 3 to 4 questions, this is one of those topics you should absolutely get right. The other parts are like slightly, as you normally see in banking exams, syllogisms that you see often in OMETs or banking exams, arrangements will mostly be linear arrangements. They won't be complex arrangements, and you'll get 1 to 2 questions from that. Number and alphabet series, like 1 question of each type, they'll generally be not that difficult to solve. And if you have experiences of like square series, cubic series, or things are related to that, you will not have a lot of difficulty with these type of questions. Blood relations, coding, decoding, input, output, generally all of these are easy questions. Especially if you are somebody who struggles with the VA part or critical reasoning, this will be your core part. Even arrangements would be linear arrangements, they'll be easy to solve, and you can score well in those particular sections as such. Directions and scheduling will also be fairly easy. Clocks and calendars are slightly on the harder side and require practice. But if you have a lot of practice in that, again, this will be easy because it is very formulaic. If you do like 4 or 5, there isn't much that you can actually put in clocks or in calendars. Okay, this one loses time, this one gains time. If this day is this particular day of the week, how many Sundays are there in the week? So there is very few types of questions that can come from this topic, and if you practice all of them like once or twice, that is more than enough to actually solve in the actual exam. So just remember, it is something that comes frequently and will be easy only with practice. If it's you do not have any practice of it, they can be very time consuming, especially calendars. They can be super time consuming. So I would suggest that actually practice them, practice few questions from that, so you do not have a lot of difficulty in the actual SNAP exam. Now let's take a look at the general English section. There are 15 questions from it. If you are somebody who hates reading comprehension, this would be the ideal test for you, because there is absolutely no reading comprehension in this particular test. But there are grammar and sentence correction questions, there are vocabulary questions, there are verbal reasoning questions. So let's take a look at each of those. Vocabulary is basically fill in the blanks, like 4 to 5 questions come from that. Shuffled words, you have synonyms, antonyms, basically roots of words. So what is you have to know the roots of words so that you know that, okay, mania and phobia are basically hate or love of different things. And if you know like the root words of different type of words, so for example, if you if you know that like fire, the root word is pyro, then you know pyromania is a love of fire, and pyrophobia would be the hate or aversion to fire. So essentially you need to learn a few root words to actually do well in this particular this. Again, like calendars and clocks, it's a niche thing. If you practice a little bit, you will be able to answer the questions, 1 or 2 questions that come from this particular topic. Again, it's not something that you would normally do. Just mug it up before the exam so that you can solve the 1-2 questions that come from this particular topic in the exam. Grammar and sentence correction. So basically you will be asked to find the error in the part of the sentence, which part of the sentence has an error. That error could be a grammatical error, it could also be a spelling mistake. So you have to be careful of both parts. You might think that, okay, if it's a grammar and sentence correction, I can assume that all words are properly spelled. That is not the case. Some words might be misspelled. Incorrect word usage, which of these sentences uses the word incorrectly? Phrase substitution, which of underlined portion can be replaced by which of these words? Figures of speech, parts of speech, direct and indirect, direct to indirect, indirect to direct, active to passive, passive to active. So we'll be covering all of these topics, but essentially grammar plays a huge part in general English. But generally this is not very difficult grammar questions. It won't be that, okay, I'm not even able to identify the error. If you have a good ear for English, this is something that you can breeze through. So it won't be very difficult grammar questions, but again, you need some basic practice. You need basic understanding of what are the figures of speech, what is a metaphor, what is a simile. So again, exam specific preparation that you have to do just before the exam. Okay, idioms and phrases. If you're used to using a lot of idioms and phrasal verbs, all of those things in your normal English language, then you won't find it difficult. But if not, then just before that, go through a list of idioms and phrases, go through a list of proverbs. That will actually help you crack the exam. Again, there are a lot of very specific things that you have to do for this particular exam, but it is not an overwhelming list. This can definitely be done in like 2-3 days before the exam. Verbal reasoning is para-jumbles and odd one out. You will get like one-off questions from each of them. So again, not a difficult section, but essentially it requires like a entirely different set of skills than your normal MBA preparation. So you have to put in some time to do well in grammar and sentence correction, to build your vocabulary, learn some things about root words and all, so that you can answer questions based on that. And also you can have some amount of para-jumbles to help you out from your normal preparation as such. Again, this is generally an easy section. Unless you struggle a lot with English, this would not be the one that hampers your preparation. You might get scared looking at the grammar and sentence correction and vocabulary questions, but this isn't that difficult. It's not very difficult vocabulary or words you have never heard. It's still on the easier side. So do not panic about this particular section. Let's take a look at quantitative ability. So quantitative ability is, again, as I said, slightly easier than CAT, but the portion remains roughly the same as CAT. Arithmetic, around 5 to 6 questions out of the 20 come from arithmetic. You have your regular profit and loss, time, speed, distance, time and work. You get 2 questions from numbers, also number systems. You get some questions from geometry and mensuration, but this also includes coordinate geometry and trigonometry. So if you have skipped coordinate geometry and trigonometry, I would suggest at least looking up the trigonometric identities, looking up coordinate geometry formulas, because they'll be needed for this particular exam. Algebra, quadratic equations, binomial theorem. Both of these, one from quadratic equations, one from binomial theorem will come. Quadratic equations also simple questions will come. So you should know the sum of the roots, the product of the roots, how to calculate, find out the value of the root, when will be the max, when will be the min. If you have those basic concepts, you should easily be able to solve the question from quadratic equations. Binomial theorem, basically you should know the binomial expansion. If you know that, it should not be very difficult as such. And also binomial theorem, you should know the binomial expansion. It might also come as part of probability also. So that also, the binomial theorem for probability you should also know. Progressions and series, 1 to 2 questions. Again, not very difficult questions, not the CAT level progressions and series, but much simpler. So you should know the formulas for arithmetic progression and geometric progression. Probability, permutations and combinations, you will get around 3 questions from here. So I would suggest that brushing it up, because this is something that not a lot of students have a lot of confidence in, or like a lot of practice for, because in CAT you don't do that much of probability and permutations and combinations. So do please brush it up before the exam. Set theory, one of question comes from set theory. Again, you should know the basic set, what is intersection, what is union, what is a null set, what is complement. If you know those basic things, it should be fine. You should know what is A union B formula, A intersection B, how to actually write all of those things. You should be able to find that value out. The cardinality of a set, basic concepts, if you know, that should be enough for this particular exam. So now that we know what is there in each section, how should you actually go about preparing for it? So how to use this course? So basically, we have taken the entire syllabus, we have split it up into a day-wise schedule. I don't want my students to spend a lot of time searching for what topics they have to do or where they should do it from. We will give you the entire work that has to be done on any particular day. So we have taken the syllabus and we have split it up into a day-wise schedule. So you will be told that on day 1, okay, see these concept videos, take these concept tests, and that would be the end of it. So you will get a proper schedule. You just have to follow that schedule to make sure that you have full concept coverage and adequate practice. Each concept video will be accompanied by a concept test. What I want you to do is make sure that you are stay on schedule. Make sure you see the concept videos on time. Make sure that you take every single concept test with the concept video. So if you stay on schedule, you will not only have the full syllabus covered, you will have adequate practice before you go into your exam. Apart from the schedule and batch tasks that are there, please make sure that you take all the 5 mocks that we have for SNAP. Try to schedule them on the weekends. Take the mock, analyze the mock. These 2 steps, if you do properly and if you follow the schedule properly, I have no doubt that you will be cracking SNAP. So best of luck, and I hope to see you studiously use our particular course. Thank you very much.